Hey everyone, Nathan here from P8 Studios, and welcome back to another networking tutorial. And in this tutorial, we're going to do a little bit of cleanup and add in my particle system to make things less boring with the game. Trying to get rid of this blue background and to create like a nice starry background, like you're actually in space. And we're actually going to increase the dimensions of the game to 1280 by 720, 720p resolution, so we can get a bigger game world to move around in. So let's go up to the game1.cs class and go up to the very top. And inside of the constructor where we have graphics is equal to new graphics device manager, go ahead and put a line under there and set graphics dot preferred back buffer height is equal to 720, and then make another new line in graphics dot preferred back buffer width is equal to 1280. And that's all we need to do. All of our code should automatically handle the new resolution. Like, we can only move half this resolution, and we might need to increase the speed a little bit. It's taking me a little bit amount of time to move to the right side. So if we go and increase the speed from 180 to, let's say, 250. That might be a little bit quicker. You can increase the speed if you want to, or decrease it. It's your game, depending on what you want to do. And now we're ready to go. Alright, so we're going to get rid of the blue background. We're going to have a black background. So if we go to the draw method, where we have graphics device.clear, color.cornflower blue, let's delete the color here and let's say black. So we have a nice black background. Now we're going to add in some stars here. And how we're going to do that, we're going to add in my particle system. I will provide a download in the YouTube description and the forum posting on how to get to the particle system. Alternatively, you can go to the particle system repository. If you go to my main website, you can have a repository link on the top right. You can click that link and you can download the particle system. So we're going to get the library, and we're actually going to go in and grab the DLL here. And we're going to copy it to the repositories, wherever you stored your networking game, and add it to the simple networking game folder, the main folder where you actually have your .cs proj. And then just go ahead and drag and drop this. Actually, I'm going to copy it. The DLL, Particle System DLL. Going to move that into our folder where we have our classes and the simple networking game.cs project. And once it's in there, we can right-click this references here and click Add a Reference. And now we have a Browse tab, and there it is. Click OK. Or you can put it on your desktop and go to Browse, and then browse to your desktop and add it that way. Alright, so now we have the particle system. So now let's go back and add the... let's actually go to the particle system implementation, and I'll add the DLL and the fading particle in a zip file, and you will be able to download that. So I'm going to take the fading particle right here, and I'm going to add it to my content, my networking content. So I'm just going to drag and drop there, and now I have the fading particle in here. Alright, so now what we're going to do is go back to the game1.cs, and we need to actually add this particle system. So go up to the very top of the game, or the class, and let's go ahead and add the particle system, which is just called particle system. I'm going to add it after the int player health, enemy health. So particle system, we need to add a using statement. So we can just add using ParticleSystem library, and then we can have access to the ParticleSystem, and then let's just call it system. Now, a ParticleSystem needs a emitter, and I called it emitter. I just called emitter. So a ParticleSystem needs a particle emitter, which is just from the emitter class. Okay, so in the initialize method, we need to initialize the ParticleSystem. I'm actually going to shorten that to init ParticleSystem. I'm going to put it in a separate method so we don't clutter up the basic initialize method. Alright, so we're going to set the system.timer is equal to, and that is a int. You can hover over, or that's a float, I'm sorry. You can hover over the property here, and it'll tell you what type it is. So it's a float.max value. So it's going to basically last the entire length of our game. System.particle longevity, how long each particle lasts. The longevity for each individual particle. So I want it to last about 30 seconds. And it's a float. Actually 3.25. Let's do that. 3.25f to mark it as float. And it's going to be we're going to use the fading particle. So system.texture name is equal to fading particle. System.blend mode is equal to blend state dot let's do alpha blend. This just sets the blend state of the system. If it's going to be additive, it's going to add the colors so we get a nice looking color. If it's alpha blend, it's just basically what we see. This is the default. It's basically what we see with the players and bullets. And there's one other one. Opaque and not permutated. Permultiplied. I've never done that one, so I'm not exactly sure what that one does. But opaque, just whenever if we have a transparency PNG, all the transparent pixels will be converted to just black. So blend state dot alpha blend. All right, so system dot birth rate. So let's control how many particles per second. Let's say 50 for now. We can increase this later. System dot birth size. Let's set it at 0.5 f. Or that's an F. System dot depth size, or not delta size, depth. Depth size is equal to 0.25 f. So each particle will shrink during its lifetime just a little bit, and that's what the birth and death size means. The birth size will be 50% the size of the image, and the death size will be 25% of the image. Okay, so we're not going to worry about colors, but system.birth color is equal to color.white, and it needs to be a vector 4, so 2 vector 4. System dot depth color is equal to color dot white dot 2 vector 4. Alright, we're not going to worry about with the opacity. So we're just system.initialize. Alright, so once that's done, let's go into the load content. And at the very end of after the bullet texture is set, let's create 2 new lines, and let's go ahead and start up the emitter. Emitter is equal to new emitter, and let's actually pass it the texture we want to use. So emitter is equal to new emitter, opening parentheses, content.load, texture 2D, system.texture name. So the emitter is what throws in new particles. The system tells it what the particles are going to be, what size, what position, what rotation. The emitter just creates those particles, and it uses that texture that we have from our system. So we pass that into the constructor, and now we need to set up the emitter.radius. And this will be we want this particle system to handle the entire game window. So we're going to set up the center point to be the center of the game window, and the radius to be half the game window. So it'll be, this is the radius, so it'll be half the height and half the width of the game window. Okay, so radius is equal to new vector2 graphics device dot viewport dot width divided by 2 graphics device dot viewport dot height divided by 2. Alright, now emitter dot position. We can change the position of the emitter. Now it's going to be the exact same thing. It's going to be at the center of the game window. Okay, so emitter.velocity. We do not want the objects to move, so we don't need to worry about velocity or any of the other effects after this. So system.emitter, we need to set up the emitter in the system. Alright, so once that's done, we need to update the particle system in the update method, and we'll just call system.update. So let's do that at the very end before base.update. System.update. Pass it game time. Alright, now to draw. What we need to do to draw, let's go to the draw method. The system needs to be in its own begin and end call, because we'll have a blend mode we set at the very top where we set alpha blend. That will be handled in a separate sprite batch.begin call. So we want the particles to spawn underneath everything else, so we need it before this begin call. System.draw. So we pass the game time and then the sprite batch. Now that will automatically create a new sprite batch.begin and end call just for the particle system. Okay, one final thing inside this init particle system. Let's set system is equal to new particle system. Alright, now press F5 and we have nice looking stars already. Now they seem to be spawning a little bit too quick. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to close this out. I'm going to change the birth rate to, let's say, 10. Let's set it up as 5 and increase the longevity to 8.25. Alright, we can mess with this a little bit more. Let's decrease this a little bit more. Let's set it at 2 and increase this to about 10.25. Alright, so that seems pretty good. Now, the initial startup was a little bit of a weird looking thing. We just have random dots popping up. But that will be taken care of in our next few tutorials when we create a loading screen, initial menu screen, and all that stuff. So the particle system will go along while we're in the menu screen, so hopefully we will appear to have a nice starry background. Kind of gives it more life. And the particles are below the sprites. Alright, so that's it for this tutorial. I hope you enjoyed it. I will provide a download for the particle system and the fading particle image, the PNG image here. It's just a simple dot and just a 2-second thing I did in Photoshop. Just click the brush once in the center of the canvas and I had a nice fading particle. So I'll send it to you. There will be a separate zip of just the DLL and the fading particle. You can add the DLL by right-clicking this references and go to add reference. And then you browse to it. You can put it on your desktop. And you'll just have to have it on your desktop when you compile it. Now, when you compile it, let's go to bin x86 debug. It'll bring in the particle system, so you don't need it on your desktop when you run the game. It'll look for it in the particle system. Alright, so I hope to see you next time.